All right, what is up, everyone? Welcome to Bounty Hunt, a Youtini network podcast where we hunt down all the extra content of the Star Wars universe. I'm your host, Eric Eilerson, and joining me on this week's hunt are two of my dearest Bad Batchers to talk about the latest adventures of the squad. First off, we have Dr. Charles Hankel. Hey, man.
What's up, everybody? It is a beautiful Sunday. I'm ready to talk some Bad Batch.
Well, I'm so glad because that's literally the day and it's literally what we're doing. And Wes Jenkins, it is. Wes Jenkins is also literally here.
I am literally here running the cameras as usual. Charles, I appreciate your natural light. It looks very good. And it looks very great.
It's so good.
It's the sun and it's free.
It's the light we were born with. Wes and I are like, okay, I'm going to put my curtains and get to different lighting. Whatever. We're happy with it. We're happy we got some folks in the chat hanging out today. We are, of course, talking about the Bad Batch Season 1, Episode 4, Cornered. Before we go any further, if you're watching this or listening to this, thank you. That's very nice of you. But also, this will be full spoilers for this episode going forward. If you have not watched this, I don't know why you clicked, to be honest. I mean, it's on Disney Plus. Go take your friend's account and watch it. But we are going to briefly recap what happened in the episode. We'll chat about things we liked, thoughts we have going forward. Very laid back, chill, casual show. And of course, if you're in the chat, throw up those thoughts. If you agree with us, if you don't, if you have questions, and we will handle them as we see them. All right. Our recap, which of course will not be nearly as good as our very own Meg Dowell, who, as a reminder, every single Friday on Youtini.com writes up a recap of the Bad Batch episode. So every Friday, if you need a recap, go over and check hers out. We begin with the Bad Batch having an issue. They need to scramble their ship's signature. It's a little too recognizable. Tech can do it, but he has to land the ship, so they land on the Clone Wars planet of Pantora. They pay off the guy in the Port Authority, but clearly not well enough because he immediately calls Fennec Shand, who is hunting the bounty on Omega, and goes to the planet. Hunter, Omega, and a disguised Echo with a droid go off meanwhile for supplies. And on their way through Pantora, they see the Empire's continued influence, including a parade hailing the new clone troopers turned Imperials. After they con a shop owner into buying Echo with a droid for 3,000 credits, Omega gets separated from Hunter, but gets saved from the streets by Fennec Shand, posing as a friend, before her true intentions as a bounty hunter are revealed by Hunter showing up. And an epic freaking knife fight, throwing shield blaster fight happens. The Bad Batch then springs into action, including Echo, who brings an army of droids to help fix the ship as Hunter goes after Fennec and Omega. Wrecker finds Omega in the tunnels of the city, but is efficiently dispatched by Fennec Shand pretty immediately. Hunter then chases Fennec Shand through the skies on a stolen speeder bike and eventually blows up her ship after she shoots a cop right in the chest and shakes her off. The Bad Batch gets back to their ship and escapes, and Fennec tells someone that, don't worry, she is still on the hunt for Omega. So, dudes, we got Fennec Shand back. Absolutely awesome. What did we think of this episode?
I thought...
Are we rating it?
Yeah, that's right. We have to rate it.
Oh,
right?
yeah. Let's do a rating and initial thought. Charles, you first, 1 to 10, with a brief reason why.
I'm going to give this episode a 7.5. Highlights were definitely Fennec Shand coming back. A couple of things that I'll get into. I felt like we were kind of retreading some old ground. And so I'm looking for some of the new stuff in this show that really has me excited, like with the Empire and with Camino, and none of that was quite in this episode, so I'm waiting. I'm gonna say 7.5.
Totally fair. Wes, what say you?
I'm gonna go with a 7.0. I loved the aesthetic of the episode. I liked the planet itself with the like the neon lights, kind of the cityscape views that we got. It wasn't, like Charles said, we didn't get the Camino stuff that we were kind of leaning on the first couple episodes, but it did. It was sort of a setup episode, right? So we did get Fennec Shand back in, but what is the overall goal that Fennec Shand is working towards, other than just to steal Omega and take her with her? So I think it's kind of like a setup episode for the next couple episodes.
Yeah, I agree. I'm gonna give this probably an 8.2, which is like, I guess, an Eric 7.5 from Charles. I'll own that. I really had a great time with it. I liked it better the second time. Honestly, I liked it a lot the first time, but the second time I kind of got to really appreciate a little more just the animation of this episode of Pantora. The aesthetic was one of the most impressive things I've ever seen in animation. Honestly, like the stones had moss on them, and like the place was very lived in, and all these extra details that they would not have done in Clone Wars or even Rebels, honestly. So I was really blown away by that, and I really did dig Fennec Shand, and realizing that she's not just going to be like a one-off episode character was really cool. I'm really glad that she's probably going to be following them for a bit. So we got like Fennec Shand, we got Crosshair, we probably have more baddies as the series goes on. But I just really appreciated how kinetic it was. Looking in the chat here, our very own Obi-Wan says the chase gave him major Attack of the Clones vibes. And I'm like, yes, that is very early Attack of the Clones with Obi-Wan and Anakin going through after Zam Wessel. Really dug that. So going into some specifics, though, now that we have our ratings done, we've done our duty. A couple things. I mentioned the animation already and the design in this episode. Particularly, I thought Echo's droid. Oh my God, a robot. This is a Star Wars podcast. There's no robots. I thought his droid design was freaking epic and rad. What did you guys think of like the animation in this one specifically? Because it was a lot more populated than some of the previous episodes we got.
Like the one thing that I did notice, there was a lot of like humanoid species on that planet. What is the species they're blue and they have like the yellow markings on their face? The Pantorans. Okay.
Yeah.
So
That's
maybe
I
that's
think
why
George
there's a lot
Lucas
of
played a Pantoran in one of the prequels.
Revenge of the Sith?
Yeah, I think so.
Did he? Oh yeah, that's true. So they're the best. That's what you're saying.
But we did get a callback from the goat man.
Godel.
Yeah, Godel.
Godels.
Hey, watch out! Like, sorry, dude. Damn.
Yeah, I did love the references with that, and then the dog character, and then one of the droids were like straight out of Resistance, from what I've heard, because I have not watched that whole show. But there were a lot of Vorpak.
It's called
Thank
a Vorpak. Here you go.
Yeah, let me see this guy.
Hold this guy up.
Yeah. He looks like like a blob of like vanilla tapioca pudding with chicken legs in there. And I thought it was much cuter in the episode.
That's not very appetizing.
It has 6 legs. The Vorpaks have 6 legs. Interesting.
Well, I'll say the animation wise, because I didn't touch on it. I agree with you guys. I thought it was unbelievable. I mean, the city was one of the best looking cities we've had ever that they were running through. I think I'm not positive. I only watched this episode once. I think the guy who Hunter steals the speeder bike from is the same character model of the guy who got thrown out of his speeder by Fennec Shand later in the episode. I'm not positive.
Man.
You'll have to fact check me. But I really hope that it was. Yeah, I really hope it was supposed to be the same guy, because that's hilarious. And no, I thought
he's totally dead now.
everything
Let's be
looked
clear.
incredible. Oh,
He is absolutely dead.
Okay.
He's super dead.
I'm glad we're talking about that.
Oh yeah.
No, but the Pantorans, I just wanted to say this: seeing a blue skin species like that, right? Like for a heartbeat, because I've been reading, Thrawn recently, Greater Good, and for a heartbeat, I was like, wait, is that a Chiss? And then I was like, wait, no, this is Pantora. But it got me excited. I was like, I would love to see something animated with Chiss again, besides just
Yeah.
Oh man.
So
That would totally be cool.
When we were going through that, or when they were going through that chase, I was counting all the people that Fennec Shand killed, like literally killed on screen. So she killed that guy on the speeder that she was on top of that dump truck looking thing, and just threw his ass off of the speeder, and he fell to his death, or he didn't. Mace Windu.
He's not a Jedi. He's dead.
or he didn't.
And then, straight up murders that police officer with a shot to the chest, and then the other one dies from collateral damage. So a total of 3 that we saw. So Fennec Shand she's a baddie.
And let's go right to her, because she's obviously the main part of this episode. We wanted her since the trailers. We were very excited. Ming-Na Wen, if any of y'all follow her on Twitter, is so excited to be in Star Wars. Like her profile pictures, Fennec Shand. She retweets all this fan art. She loves this episode. So it's so cool to have her back from her time in The Mandalorian. were you guys a little? This is gonna be a leading question, but I don't care. Were you a little surprised by how bad she was at that point? Like how much actual murder? Like we've been talking about how dark the Bad Batch has been with flame throwing civilians and such things previously, but I was kind of taken aback by the shot to the chest. That Fennec Shan was like, I'm kidnapping Omega and we're having fun, and I knock out Wrecker, and then I just brutally murder innocent civilians.
Yeah.
Like, how'd she hit you guys?
I don't think that it really struck me personally, but I definitely see where you're coming from. I was just trying to keep in mind, this is the Fennec Shan that we met in Mando in that first episode, right? When she's trying to kill our heroes, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like,
right. She's a sniper.
Exactly. So that's kind of how I thought about it. I really loved though that Ming-Na Wen is doing the voice. Any like little bits of connection you can get between the live action and the animation like that. I mean, she was immediately, that is Fennec Shan in my head.
Yep.
You know, so that was really cool. I love the character design also of her.
She looks
and I
awesome.
felt like even though towards the end of the episode she was very action oriented, as we said, murdering people left and right. Early on when she was like kind of coaxing Omega, I got a real cool, like creepy vibe from her, almost like, I don't know, like the witch from Snow White or something, you know, like acting sweet.
Yeah.
Like, we're going to help you find your family, find your friends, you know, just come with me, come over to this gingerbread house that I built before I shove you in the oven. It was like that kind of a feeling, and I loved it.
Dude, 100%. Blind Fates in the chat made a good point earlier that she has a very sneaky feline way of moving about.
Yeah.
And I totally see that. And I think that's in part to the animators of her, but also to Ming-Na Wen's vocal performance. Like, it is a very soothing tone. I totally get why Omega went with her. And Omega was also very interesting in this episode with her, because we're watching this and the way it's shot, the way it's written, we're like, okay, even if we didn't know who Fennec Shan was, we'd be like, okay, bad guy, stranger danger, don't do this. But Omega's never been off planet. You know, she's never met a person that wished her harm until like Crosshair, and until like that, you know, the Kaminoans have always just been nice to her and everyone has wanted the best for her. So when she's like, hey, here's this fruit that we got, I'll help you find your friends. And she's like, oh, you can come travel the galaxy with us. I'm like, oh yeah, she's naive, but in a totally realistic way, you know?
Yeah,
right.
She hasn't learned, right? She's naive in that way, like you said.
Yeah, that's like, so some stuff in Star Wars I feel like uses that, and it didn't land as well with me. Like, I've watched a bit of Resistance. I have not watched the entire show, and it bothered me. And now I'm blanking. What's the main character's name? Kaz. It bothered me when I watched the show personally, that he seemed to be like too goofy, like, oops, like I don't know what I'm doing, and
he's
now
like
look
from
what's
Saved by the
happened,
Bell.
and and it didn't play well because he's like a normal person that's lived in the galaxy, right? Like, he was going to do something new, but it didn't play as well as me for that reason. But it plays better with Omega for exactly the reason you're saying. Like, she came from this super sheltered life on Kamino, surrounded by clones. Like, she has no idea what's going on. She has no reason not to trust people.
Right.
So it actually is working better for me in this scenario. But I do hope that we see her wisen up, though.
Yeah. So this is the first part in the timeline, Star Wars timeline, that Fennec Shan has showed up, right? Or is she earlier, like in comics
I think so. For us, so yeah. Well, that's the thing. I'm like, I made a note here. She's now in Mando, Bad Batch. She's gonna be in the Book of Boba Fett. She's like the new Saw Gerrera, essentially. I think we're gonna see her in everything.
So she has to have that point where she comes to like redeem herself, right? So right now she's bounty hunter, kills people, killing people, learning, and then to the Mando part, and she's just like, maybe I should help for good, and then crosses that line, and then not killing so much as in helping.
That is Star Wars to a T. Killing, learning, celebration. Like that's the arc of everything. I love that. And I do think it's going to be interesting to see how she incorporates with the crew, which leads me to my next question to you guys. Who do you think hired her? I mean, like, given that it's Omega's on the hologram, it makes the most sense to me that it's the Kaminoans, because they are kind of the only ones that we think know about her, but could it be someone else?
Oh man. See, I didn't even think of the Kaminoans whenever
Ooh,
she was.
I'm gonna sneeze.
I was thinking
Bless
more
you.
along the lines
you.
of like one of the crime syndicates, just because.
Yeah,
the,
okay.
So
Keep
we could
going.
try to get them involved in some way, and then
Yeah,
maybe
Let's
right
follow this
involved.
where this leads us.
Come on.
and then we maybe get a Darth Maul. No, not Darth Maul, but do we get a Jabba the Hutt reference? Do we get any of the Hutts showing up, like
Ooh, sure.
making the
Like,
call,
who'd you-
or one of their lackeys making the call for them? I don't know, but who is she talking to? I replayed that 2 or 3 times, and I was just like, is there some clue here where she's like looking out and some star sparkles and like it's like Tatooine or something? But nothing.
I swear to
It's
God,
always
if they go to Tatooine, like everyone's
No,
trying to go back to Jakku. No, everyone's trying to go to Tatooine, my guy. Like,
I think when I watched the episode, I actually kind of initially assumed it was Tarkin. And now that you say
Ooh.
that, we don't really know how much he knows about Omega. But I
Right.
assume that he's kind of like auditing this Kaminoan cloning process. Like, I assume he may have come across some files about Omega. We still don't really technically know that much about her either. But clearly she's special.
Yeah.
And so I was thinking Tarkin maybe, but it would be pretty interesting if we see the Kaminoans treating her as more, we've seen them almost have sort of a loving relationship with her, or they seem to care for her very much, but maybe they are looking at her as like stolen property right now, because they are creating this clone force, and they do talk about them in terms of units and all this kind of stuff, right? So they may actually be okay with sending someone like Fennec Shand after her.
Yeah, because we did talk last episode, I think, about who are when they had the shot of the Kaminoans looking at the empty lunch table, because they're like, the only way to stay ahead of the game is to clone the advanced clones, right, to make a better fighting force. And we thought, okay, it's maybe the whole Bad Batch, but I think if it does turn out to be the Kaminoans or Tarkin or someone on that level, then it means Omega is that patient zero or whatever it is for this next evolution of clone, this next evolution of soldier.
Right.
And I think that's interesting because clearly Fennec wasn't trying to harm her. Like, even though she was manipulating her, she clearly had orders to bring her in alive, whatever that may be. So I think that'll be interesting to see how Fennec follows them throughout the galaxy going forward for sure. But I also had a moment that I actually thought of as I watched Alex Damon's review on this episode over at Star Wars Explained, which are always fantastic and bring up a lot of things I don't think about. He's talking about how Omega's naivete allowed her to be kind of swayed by Fennec Shand and made a lot of sense. But the Bad Batch also kind of showed their naivete in this episode because they've never really lived life outside of the military before. They've never had to know where food is coming from. They never had to make plans. Like, I really loved the moment when they were trying to bribe the guy and they didn't know how to bribe him. He's like, okay, I can look the other way. And Wrecker's like, great, thanks. That was easy. He's like, no, you got to give me money. And Tech's like, how much does a bribe cost? Like, I really like watching them learn about life outside of missions,
I also appreciate how they detailed Sullistan's male-powdered baldness. So that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
Is that the first Celestin we've seen with hair?
I don't know.
Maybe, yeah.
Could be.
I really can't think of
I feel like there
Maybe
was
he
another
spoke
one-
basic. Because
Maybe there was
didn't
one
speak
in-
basic.
No, or he was too lazy to.
There you go.
I feel like there was one in a comic or something because I'm now imagining
probably.
Celestin with dreads. That's a woman. I don't remember who it was. In the chat, if you know who I'm talking about, let us know. But I did like that too. Like, and this was a fun episode. Now you mentioned that, we got Celestins, we got Pantorans. Like, we're getting a lot of species in this, which I think is fun. And I wonder if as the Empire gets more and more prominent, if we're going to start seeing less and less of that, as we know the Empire is like pretty xenophobic and pretty racist. So I wonder if we're going to start getting a little more human depending on what planets they go to.
It was kind of crazy how they showed it again, how all the citizens were cheering for the Empire. They were like, yeah, take all my money and tattoo me and make sure that I'm in the Empire, and give me my chain code and all that. And they're really hammering that in, like how the citizens are all buying into this Empire, and it's really only the Bad Batch and Omega that are kind of on that other side that are against or starting the quote unquote rebellion.
Well, I mean, it's the reality of the war being over. You know, I mean, the Clone Wars are such a galactic spanning war, you know, and it's, I mean, the closest thing I think we can get to in scale, this is a stretch, and Corey would yell at me if he were on this show, is like the end of World War II, right? Is that even though there were so many atrocities still going on and the world was far from perfect, the relief that you don't have to think about this overarching conflict every single day is just so palpable that in the aftermath of this giant galactic war, all the normal citizens are like, oh, I have to change my money? Yeah, whatever, fine. No one's going to come to my planet and shoot me, right? Like, I don't have to be afraid of separatists. You know, it's what makes Palpatine's plan so brilliant, that unless you're on the inside, you just think it's peacetime.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
The Empire has all these stands that are like, hey, come convert your currency into Bitcoin. That's been interesting to see that on all.
Dude, I heard it was a bad crypto day today, by the way. Do you guys do crypto?
Really?
I don't do crypto.
I don't do crypto.
I will never do crypto. I'm amazed Corey has not gotten into crypto yet.
I got disgusted whenever I saw the lots and the pallets of graphics cards that these miners will purchase to do the cryptocurrency, and they ruin it for us gamers. You ruin it.
Listen up.
We want one of your 2,000 graphics cards that you use in your one house that you lease just to mine for currency, but whatever.
Give us a 3070. Come on. You're destroying the environment. You're taking away gamer parts. So you deserve the fact that it tanked today. Anyway, so welcome to
on another note, is anyone else triggered now every time they hear the word citizen in something Star Wars? Because okay, y'all had this experience too.
I wrote that down.
It was the like Pantora police force, I think. Or were they? Maybe they were some clones. I can't remember. But yeah, they were running after Rambo, aka Hunter, and they're like, "Stop, citizen!" And I was very triggered.
No, man, if you're gonna call someone citizen, maybe you deserve to get shot through the chest. You know, I'm just saying that's a rough go. But yeah, and then it's funny because all this stuff kind of happens in the beginning, and then literally half the episode, I think by time, is this giant chase, right?
Yeah.
It's for a show that has been a lot about the emotional evolution of these characters and kind of where they're going. I really think this might have been the most action-packed episode yet, even though I think it's deceptive in that way, because it doesn't involve a big shootout. It doesn't involve a bunch of stormtroopers. It's literally Fennec and them going through the levels of the city, which I think, going back to Obi-Wan's original, in the chat's original comment, is that it really is, I think, the most akin to Attack of the Clones, where the rest of the traffic doesn't know what's going on. They're not like aggro after everybody. It's just kind of a fun chase. And I think, like we were talking about a couple episodes ago, the fact that this season is so long with the Bad Batch, like it's 16 episodes, I think that's really allowing them to try these. Like, not every episode has to be about who's Omega, what's the secret, what's going on. It can be, hey, let's bring in this awesome character and have a baller chase scene with a ton of great animation.
Yeah. And they showed how Fennec used her wits when she was fighting. So she was somewhat overpowered by Rambo, like with both her arms being held down, and then he just got headbutted to the face because he didn't take into account that she was going to use her helmet to slam into his forehead. So I appreciated that level of detail in a fight scene.
Yeah, I mean, in that moment where he throws the knife, she catches it in the shield, and as she drops the shield, grabs the knife out of it, and then it's like, the choreography in this stuff is like straight out of Winter Soldier.
Yeah,
I mean, that was incredible stuff.
I really thought the moment also, even though it was short-lived, of Wrecker and her in that tunnel underground, that was an incredible moment. Just kind of seeing them walk towards each other.
Size up.
She's totally
I really wanted that to be a pretty knockdown, drag-out battle. And it's not what happened. Wrecker got dispatched pretty immediately, but it was really cool. I loved seeing her match up with various members of the Bad Batch one-on-one to see, kind of how things shake out and how people stack up.
Totally. So I want to hit one more thing here on this episode, and that is Echo's role in this episode, because Echo had a very interesting moment. I still think he's maybe maybe my most intriguing member of the Bad Batch, because we're still dealing with his history of him being in the 501st, obviously, and him going through everything he did. And in this episode, he does disguise himself as a droid, works very well. I loved his little moment of being like, I'm the supervisor. And he has his little, like, he can get off the restraining bolts. All works great. Do you guys think there was anything in Echo's mind about being like the distraction or being so easily mistaken for a droid? Because like I feel like he's always on the cusp of being a little dehumanized. And do you think we're going to get any repercussions of that?
Oh, that's a good question.
Yeah, I don't think I expect it. I don't think I expect it, but it definitely kind of, I felt a little twinge in my gut whenever they were like, oh yeah, just pretend to be a robot because you have a screwdriver hand. I was just like, oh, ouch. Like,
yeah, dude, he has a prosthetic because he got destroyed. You blew him up. Like,
yeah.
This was half your fault now.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was gonna say that, I mean, when he got sold for 3,000, he wanted well, he probably wanted 10,000, but
yeah, he's like, what's my price?
Was like 4,000. Yeah, the scene where he clipped off everybody's restraining bolt, and then that one droid that was there, that little squatty droid with the legs and the arms. Did you
Click?
It was a Click. I wrote down Kink. I thought his name was
It might be Kink. Clink. It's something like that.
But that
he was great. I loved him.
That was the first time I've seen a droid like that, so I thought that was funny. And then I saw one that vaguely resembled R2. I was like, how did R2 get into this episode?
He's in everything.
But it wasn't him.
Oh, interesting. Hey, what brings up on Wikipedia? Blind Fates just put up that his droid design looked kind of like Tam Pulsa from Afra in Rogue One, which I just looked it up on the Wook. I can totally see that a little bit. It's a good design. I mean, I think this is the designs. Yeah, right. Throw that up on the screen if you get a shot. Yeah, because I can totally see that.
Yeah.
Like cool helmets. Echo is king of cool helmets in this show, to be clear. But I could totally see that looking like Echo's design.
For sure.
And I wonder how many, like, is he going to be the disguise master? Is this going to happen a couple times? You know, as we go on, because hey, every new costume means that they can sell a new Black Series or a Funko. So I tell you, I ask, why not?
I mean, that's a great strategy to have. You have a kind of chameleon type person on your team that can take the shape of whether it be a droid, because you see throughout Star Wars that droids they're more, I guess, accepted as being part of the Empire, like in Rogue One when K2SO just like marches him through the city and says, "These are my prisoners," kind of thing. So he could be a distraction through
he can slide into places easily, right? I mean, that was like how C-3PO had a network of spies, right? Because no one thinks about the droid in the room.
Yep.
So.
Ooh, and everyone brings up another point about Wrecker here. Last episode we talked about his headache with maybe his chip going on.
Yeah.
And he said maybe his chip got a little activated, and maybe that's why Fennec downed him so easily in their fights, because he's not really at his best. The chip is trying to overtake some stuff. Maybe.
Oh,
I like that.
He got dome shotted again because he got thrown headfirst into the tunnel wall. So
poor dude's face. I mean, I think it's more of Fennec's skill, seeing like, bigger they are, harder they fall. But I do think in the next couple episodes we're gonna get a reckoning.
Oh,
I didn't
even try it, huh?
I didn't even try it. Oh, we're gonna reckoning of our boy with the chip. I think that we stayed away from earlier in the chat. I saw we missed Tarkin and the Kaminoans in this one. I did as well, but I think that means next episode we'll get back onto where they are for sure. But I mean, this show's doing a really cool job of like a planet an episode, and there's so many. Which, gosh, these designers are like, can we just stay in the same environment for 2 episodes, please? But it's working great. Yeah. I'm so impressed, and I truly, even though we said it last week, I don't know where we're going. I don't know what's next, and that's kind of fun.
What are we, only like a fourth or a fifth of the way through? So we still have quite a few 25%. More episodes. Yeah, we got quite a few episodes to get through. So they can't, they can't give us everything all in one episode. They kind of, like I said earlier, it's kind of build it up so we can
Exactly.
make sure we stay up at 2 a.m. to watch the episode so we can talk about it 6 hours later.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yep. And we're gonna do it. We love it. But on that, any final thoughts from you guys on this episode? Again, it seems like we all had it was fun. We love the chase. We love the ideas. Fennec is great. So stoked to get more of her.
The speculation on who she was talking to at the end, that was perfect. That's probably reeled everybody in and got everybody talking too. And so they could tell their friends like, hey, check out episode 4. See, tell me what you think about who she's actually really talking to. Who do you think it's? Kaminoans? Do you think it's somebody completely different? Do you think it's the crime syndicate? Tell me.
Yeah. And it's stuff like that makes me so glad that they are releasing this in the episodic format. I know that Disney Plus has like discovered the, release schedule of TV for the last 50 years. Like, oh my gosh, if we do it weekly, people will talk about it. We don't have to binge everything. But I think things like this really work on that. Charles, what about you?
Yeah, I mean, I want more Fennec Shan. I want more Kaminoans. I want more Tarkin, and I'm sure that all of that is coming here soon. And we keep in mind, because we talk about each episode in depth, and we're like, oh yeah, I mean, this one's like a 7.5 or whatever. Like, it wasn't as good as the opening episode for me. That's like what's supposed to happen. Like, if you have more than 4 episodes, like we got to explore some side territory, or else we'll be 10 episodes in and we'll be like, what else is there to explore on this one topic? So I mean, this is how things are supposed to go. It's okay to have some episodes you don't love as much. We know that Disney knows what they're doing in terms of when we're winding down a season, right? From watching Clone Wars and from watching the first 2 seasons of Mando. So we got some good TV coming our way.
Absolutely. I just rewatched. I finished my rewatch of Breaking Bad last week. And not every show can be the 5th season of Breaking Bad, where everything is just 10 out of 10 in tension and story. It's exhausting. It's amazing, but you can't do that every show.
Yeah,
you just can't. So I'm also very excited to see where we go. I'm loving the evolution of the crew with Omega. I'm glad it's still different than Mando. It's not just a Mando Grogu situation. I love Fennec, and I hope that we keep getting more people in. Yeah. I love the references, but man, again, hats off to these animators and choreographers, and D. Bradley Baker, absolute king. I'm glad you got a couple characters you didn't have to do this episode because you needed a vocal break. Oh, man. But on that, everyone, that is going to do it for this week's episode of Bounty Hunt. Keep your eyes out for our next hunt next week, when we'll be diving into episode 5 of The Bad Batch. A special thank you to Cheryl Bell, Patrick Ortiz, and Carl Stander on our Jedi High Council, and Elizabeth Cloutier, Jason Mitchell, Freddie C., and Sally and Chris Eilerson on our Alliance High Command for your amazing support. Go ahead and keep telling us all your thoughts about The Bad Batch in our Discord community at youtini.com/Discord using those spoiler tags. And be sure to follow the main show on Twitter at Living Force Pod, and all of us individually for our latest thoughts about all things Star Wars. I'm at Eric Eilerson. Charles is at C. Henkel. Wes is at Boss Wes. And Corey, if he shows up, is at Doc Star Wars MD. We'll see you tomorrow on the Living Force for the reveal of our Dark Side draft and our lightsabers episode. But until next time, may the Force be with you.